Good morning, students. This is your economics teacher from Delhi Public School, Srinagar, Umar Farooq. This is your lecture number 2 or class number 2 for the chapter National Income. In the previous chapter, we have already discussed a few things regarding the concept of macroeconomics, its history, and other related things. Now, this time we will discuss some basic concepts of national income, or you can say macroeconomics, because these concepts we are going to use in this very chapter. So these are some basic concepts of macroeconomics. This is for class number 2. To start up with, I'll start with the basic 3 concepts which are really very important in the field of economics, that are consumption, number 2 is production, and number 3 is the capital formation. These 3 very basic concepts are to be taken like, we'll take production first. You see that production, when we define production, it is generally defined as an activity. So consumption is an activity, production is an activity, capital formation is an activity. But when we have to define production, we define production as an activity, such an activity which produces material goods and services. So production is the activity which produces what? Material goods and services. So the production of goods and services, or you can say that which increase the value, which increase the value of commodities. Which commodities? The commodities which are in context whatsoever you are producing, or the commodities which are already produced. So when you say production, it means that it is something which adds the value. Or when you produce, when you combine different factors of production and you make something, it is called production, because it adds the value. I'll give you an example and we will move to the next concept. The example for this concept could be that suppose we have a carpenter. This carpenter went to a timber market and he bought some timber or some wood for, say, rupees 10,000. So for 10,000 he bought the wood. So this wood will act as a raw material for him. Now he will process it. He will make something out of it. Say he made some furniture out of it, a chair, a table, a cupboard, or anything, and he is going to sell it for, say, 17,000 rupees in the market. So the wood was acquired for 10,000 rupees. He worked with it, processed it, changed its shape, added some value to it. Now he made some furniture for 17,000 rupees. So it is simply the second part of the definition which says which adds the value. So it simply says that this person added a value of 7,000 rupees to the economy or to this wood. So ultimately this all has to circulate in an economy. So we can say in this very context we can talk that he added the value. So this is the first and foremost thing which we have to understand, what is the process. In between, while I was talking about the production part, I said that he combines different factors of production. Here, now look here, factors of production. So the factors of production are many, but we in economics categorize them into four major categories, that is land, all the natural endowments which has been bestowed by Almighty comes under it, labor, every type of labor, you put in it, whether you talk of a blue collar, you talk of a white collar, you talk of a golden collar, whatsoever, every type of person who is working in an economy and is contributing something is under the labor category. And third is capital. So capital is something which is invested. Capital is anything which is money or money is worth. And fourth is the entrepreneur. So this entrepreneurship or entrepreneur or organizer, it is also called as organizer. This is someone who combines these factors of production. Say these factors of production will fetch some factor payments, will earn something. Say land, for land as a factor payment we say rent. For labor we say wages. For capital we say interest. And for entrepreneurship we would put it like profit. So these are the rent, wage, interest, profit. These are the factor payments which are being fetched by these factors of production. So these factors of production are put together and production takes place. This was the first concept we were talking about. The second concept which is important for we people will be the concept of consumption. When production takes place, it is for consumption. So now we will talk of this concept, that is consumption. So what is consumption basically? I'll take it like here. So okay, now we'll take up consumption. This is also a process of using up of goods and services for direct satisfaction, as we have been saying it time and again, of individuals or collective wants. Collective human wants, I would like to put it like as, is called consumption. So look at the definition what I have been saying. Consumption is the process of using up of goods and services for direct satisfaction of individual or collective wants. So when we say individual, we are talking in micro terms, exactly. And when we talk in the collective human wants, when we talk in the sense of collection or aggregate or as a whole, we are talking in macro senses. So we are studying this time the macroeconomics. So consumption, whatsoever is being produced by the process of production, when it is being used, finally it is being used, like TV sets, your milk, ghee, soap, clothes, shoes, cycle, anything you talk about, you are using it up finally, and this use is called consumption. So you are consuming it. So for the satisfaction of collective or collective human wants means this is from the very basic definition of economics. Economics is a subject which bridges the gap between exactly unlimited wants and limited resources. So the consumption is the process of using up of all these very things. The third concept which we were talking about is capital formation. Capital formation. So capital formation is basically the concept of it is also called as what it is called investment. So capital formation or investment, these are two synonymous words. So capital formation, if defined, can be defined as capital formation is the addition. Is the addition. Addition to or made to capital stock. Addition made to capital stock. So in every nation there is a capital stock of goods and services. So capital stock simply means that whatsoever there is in an economy. So I would put it like it is the addition made to capital stock of an economy. So economy, now you know from the previous lecture that it is a system which provides people with the living. Exactly, economy during a given period. You have to keep it in mind that whensoever you are talking about capital formation, you have to bear it in mind that you are talking about a particular period of time. So alternatively, it can be said, or in other words, we can say excess of production or consumption is called capital formation. I'll write it, then I'll make you understand. It is excess or of production. So that means or consumption. It is also called capital formation. What does this very particular sentence mean? Let us understand it first and we will move forward. Excess of production over consumption. That means whatsoever you have produced, if it all is not being consumed, and it usually happens in the economies that whatsoever you produce in a particular year, in a particular period of time, it is not being used completely, it is not being exhausted completely, some of it remains behind. That sum is also called as the capital formation. That excess which remains is also called as capital formation, or that part of current production. So I am using one other word, that is current production. So over a period of time, current production. Now please correlate these two very words. So the part of current production which is not consumed, but we can say set aside for use in future production. So if you are producing something which is not being used this time but is put aside for the future production, it could also be called as capital formation. After understanding this capital formation thing, after understanding this the three basic important concepts, we now can shift to the concepts which we have to talk about in macroeconomics. These are also very three important concepts of macroeconomics, but the a few terms which we are going to use are like I'll start up with. So we were talking about production, so we used a few words, that is goods and services. We were talking about the consumption, we said the use of goods and services. We were talking about the capital formation, we again said the use of or the formation of goods and services. So this word good is an important word, because this word good will divide many things. You will make you understand many things. So the goods which are produced are called consumption goods. How? Let us see. So I am starting up with a simple word, that is goods. These goods can be categorized into basic two most important types. Number first, consumption goods, and number second, we can say capital goods. So consumption goods and capital goods. These consumption goods are defined as any physical object or natural or man-made or any service rendered which commands a price. So if you have to define it, like goods purchased or own product for satisfaction of wants are called consumption goods. So consumption goods are those goods and services which are purchased or You produce them yourselves for the satisfaction of wants. So these goods, when we talk in the terms of consumption goods, we will revert back to the definition of consumption, where we said the goods produced for ultimate use, final use. But contrary to it, before we can go to the capital goods, these consumer goods are categorized, or these are subdivided into, we can say there are two types of consumption goods, which are durables and non-durable. So you can write it like durable consumer goods and non-durable consumer goods. Durable consumer goods are simply that things which remain there, like washing machine, TV sets, cars, etc. While as non-durable consumer goods are which are produced and used, ultimately gets finished up, that is such as food items, electricity, domestic services, etc., etc. We can talk about these non-durables are also called as single-use consumer goods. So this is the consumption part. Contrary to it, when we talk about the capital goods, these are the goods which are being used for further production, or goods which are capable, or goods capable of being used for producing other goods. So capital goods are those goods which are capable of being used for producing other goods. So these are the goods which are produced primarily for the production of other goods and services. So any machine which is produced for the use in a factory, so that with that very particular machine we can produce some goods, this is called, like you can say different production units we have, factories, shops, commercial institutions. These all can be categorized in capital goods. So simply, when you define capital goods, you have to say are those goods which are used by producers for the production of other goods and services. For example, machines, equipments, etc. They are also known as producer goods. You can sometimes they can be referred as producer goods. Producer goods. You have to bear it in mind. The consumer goods, consumption goods, capital goods, or producer goods. These capital goods can also be classified into two types, the same two types. One is the durable capital goods. I'll put it like, one is durable capital goods and second is non-durable capital goods. We have already understood the word durable and non-durable, so we can put in the examples like durable consumer goods, which are, say, buildings, machinery, vehicles, etc., and non-durables such as stocks of raw material, such as goods, raw material goods which may not remain there, which are exhausted as and when required. So these are two basic concepts which you have to understand. Further, if we proceed with this concept of goods, we have one more concept that is called as we have one more concept which is known as economic goods. Economic goods. So what are economic goods? Are those goods which are scarce or limited, and hence which will command a price. A house, a car, a pair of jeans, etc. For you, I'll write it down. Are those goods which are scarce or limited and hence command sorry and hence command a price. For example, a house, as I said earlier, a pair of jeans, etc. So, another category of goods is non-economic goods. So, again defining these non-economic goods are those goods which are as a free gift from the nature, are those goods endowed by nature as a free gift. So, are unlimited in supply, maybe have a price, or may not be, but most of the times we take into consideration such goods and services which command a price. Those are also called as free goods. Okay, so after understanding these economic goods and non-economic goods, now another category of goods is consumer goods. So when you say consumer goods, these are those goods which are utilized by consumers and which satisfy their wants directly, as I have already explained it in the previous slide, such as fruits, bread. So accordingly, these goods, consumer goods, I do not need to define them again here, but I'll do one thing, can be further categorized into durable consumer goods, semi-durable consumer goods, non-durable consumer goods, and services. So I do not have to define it again, but still are utilized by consumers for sake. Clear? So we are done with economic goods, non-economic goods, consumer goods, consumption, production, capital formation. So from the word capital formation, I remember one more thing. It is called as capital goods. Capital goods. So again, the definition will vary a bit, but will be the same. Those goods which are used by the producers or production of other goods and services. So after understanding capital goods, we can come upon one more category, one more important aspect of goods, which is for us, in a way, really very important to understand. So we can talk now about our intermediate goods. Now you must be able to understand that what I am talking about when I say intermediate goods. Intermediate goods. We have already discussed it, but still, let us see what it is. These intermediate goods are non-durable goods, and these are used in production process for resale, etc., such as raw materials, as I said in the earlier example. But I will write down the definition for you. Are those non-durable goods which are used in production process or for resale. Say I bought something from a wholesaler, now I'm going to sell them on my retail shop, like that. For example, raw material. Raw materials are primarily being bought for the use in production. So another category we will talk about are final goods. So these are the goods which are used for final consumption, for final consumption. So here, who uses it? Exactly, by the consumer. We'll put it in a bracket, by the consumer. And maybe it is for investment. So let us put it like this. So final goods are those goods which are used for final consumption by the consumer and for maybe for the investment also. Now we come up to some technical points here to as our basic concepts. The first is stock. We used this word just a bit earlier. Now let us define it. See, these are actually two things: stock and flow. I'll define the both. Both of these two things are variables. Okay, so stock is a variable, flow is also a variable. But what distinguishes a good from being in the category of a stock or a variable is time period. And when you say stock is a variable, or a stock variable is a quantity, you can say like that. Let us write it down. Stock, a stock variable is a quantity measurable at, see what I said, stock is a variable, flow is also a variable. So what makes a good a stock or a variable is this part of the sentence, is this part of the definition. So when I say a stock variable is a quantity, a stock variable is a quantity measurable at a given point of time. Stock variable is a quantity measurable at a given point of time. So when you measure any of your stocks at a particular point of time, it becomes stock. I'll give you an example. Say total population of India on 30th of March 2020. When I say total population of India on 30th of March 2020 is so and so. This becomes a point of time. This point of time makes it a stock variable. Contrary to it, when we say a flow, it is also a variable, but we'll define it. A flow variable. Flow variable is which is measured or measurable, measured or measurable over a period of time. See, at a point of time over a period of time. So it has a time dimension. The first one has got no time dimension. No time dimension. So this has got a time dimension. Time dimension. So if you say, for example, number of births in India, we have been talking about population. I'll make the same example. Number of births in India. Now we have to talk over a period of time. So number of births in India in the year 2020, which will be said in 2021 when it will be calculated. So for a time being, we have been using this word. That's why I'm using the same year. Number of births in India in the year 2020. So this covers whole the year. This covers a particular date. So that is what is the major difference in between stock and a flow. So I'll make a simple example